the son of one of the most powerful men in the pharmaceutical industry, lay in agony, surrounded by 29 of the nation's top medical professionals, none of whom had an answer. As every test came back normal and the hospital descended into chaos, a poor little girl watched it all in silence. The truth she would reveal was about to change medicine forever. An ambulance screamed up to the emergency room entrance of New York Presbyterian Hospital. On the gurney lay 8-year-old Leo Thompson, unconscious, his face a ghastly shade of grey. His breathing was dangerously erratic, and the sound of his ragged gasps, audible even through the oxygen mask, filled the hallway with a palpable tension. "Patient is Leo Thompson, 8-year-old male," a paramedic shouted. "O2 sats are dropping fast and he's losing consciousness." Leo's father was Richard Thompson, the CEO of Biogen Innovations, America's largest pharmaceutical giant. The drugs his company developed were exported to 80 countries, and his personal fortune was estimated at over $10 billion. But in this moment, all that power and money were useless against the force threatening his son's life. "Get me the best medical team you have now," Richard roared at Waro, the hospital administrator. "Money is no object." The hospital instantly shifted into high alert. The country's top pediatricians, internists, and neurologists were urgently summoned. 7 world-renowned specialists were flown in from overseas on private jets. The VIP intensive care unit was transformed into a state-of-the-art command center, but after 8 grueling hours, the results were baffling. Blood work, CT scans, MRIs, EKGs, EEGs, toxicology screens, every single metric was normal. There were no signs of infection, no genetic abnormalities. Medically speaking, he was a perfectly healthy child. "I don't understand," said Dr. Robert Chen, the head of pediatrics, shaking his head. "According to every test we have, this boy should be fine." Leo's condition, however, was only getting worse. His oxygen levels continued to fall, and his skin turned a deeper shade of grey. Most terrifying was his breathing. It was laboured and irregular, as if something was physically blocking his airway. Meanwhile, in the hospital's basement level, 4-year-old Mia Miller sat quietly beside her mother Sarah's cleaning cart. Sarah worked the night shift as a janitor at the hospital. A poor single mother, she had nowhere else to leave her daughter, so she brought Mia with her to work every night. Mia was a precocious child, far more observant than others her age. With a small frame and large, watchful eyes, she had a habit of carefully studying her surroundings, but a deep wound festered in her heart. Just 3 months ago, she had lost her beloved father, David Miller. Her father, a construction worker, had collapsed suddenly on the job. When he was brought to the hospital, his symptoms had been eerily similar to the boy now lying on the floor above. He couldn't breathe properly, his face turned grey, and he clawed at his throat as if something were stuck. "My throat hurts, Mia. It feels like something's alive in there. I can feel it moving," her father had repeated during his final days. "Like a little bug is scratching me." But the doctors had dismissed his pleas as pain-induced delusions or stress-related hallucinations. His tests, too, had all come back normal. In the end, her father had died, clutching Mia's small hand. "Mia, you stay right here, you understand?" her mother warned. "You have to be quiet while Mommy works. If there's any trouble—" Sarah didn't finish the sentence. If she lost this job, she and Mia would be out on the street. It had been nearly impossible to find work after her husband's death, but Mia couldn't ignore the commotion coming from the floors above. Driven by curiosity, she slipped away and crept up the stairs toward the VIP wing. Peeking through the glass window at the end of the hall, her heart dropped. The boy on the bed looked just like her father had. The same grey face, the same pained expression, the same ragged breathing, and most of all, the way he clawed at his throat in agony. "Daddy," Mia whispered. Just then she saw the boy clutch his neck, his body writhing as if something were squirming inside his throat. Mia realized it was the exact same motion her father had made on his last night. Suddenly, an alarm blared from inside the ICU. "O2 sats are crashing. Heart rate is unstable. Severe respiratory distress." The medical team rushed in. They were 12 hours into this crisis and still had no idea what was causing it. The world's best doctors, the most advanced equipment, and an unlimited budget were all failing. Watching from the hallway, Richard Thompson slammed his fist against the wall. "Why?" he screamed. "What the hell is happening to my son?" His wife, Eleanor, grabbed his arm, her face streaked with tears. "Richard, please, our boy. This can't be happening." Mia pressed her face against the glass, studying the scene inside the ICU. When the medical team stepped out for a moment, the boy was left alone on the bed. That's when Mia saw it again, a subtle movement under the skin of the boy's neck. It was exactly what her father had described when he said, "It feels like something's alive." Mia was certain now, whatever was happening to this boy was the same thing that had happened to her father. Just then, her mother's frantic voice called from the end of the hall, "Mia, what are you doing over there?" Sarah abandoned her cleaning cart and ran toward her. Her face went pale when she saw her daughter near the VIP wing. If security caught them, she'd be fired on the spot. "Mummy, that boy," Mia started to say, but a louder alarm cut her off. Leo's condition had taken another sharp turn for the worse. The medical team swarmed back into the room and the hallway erupted into chaos. Sarah grabbed her daughter's hand to pull her away, but Mia wouldn't budge. Her small eyes were filled with a mixture of certainty and profound sadness. The helplessness she felt the day she couldn't save her father washed over her again. But this time was different. This time Mia knew what it was, and she couldn't let it happen again. Sarah gripped her daughter's hand, trying to pull her away from the VIP wing, but Mia stood rooted to the spot. "Mommy, there's something in that boy's throat. It's the same thing Daddy had," Mia pleaded. "Mia, please don't say things like that." Desperation crept into Sarah's voice. "What could you possibly know? The doctors are right there." But Mia wouldn't give up. She remembered her father's last days with vivid clarity, how he'd scratch at his neck every night, whispering that something was wiggling. The terror in his eyes as he insisted it feels alive. And that final moment when it looked like something small had come out of his mouth. The doctors had called it a simple blood clot. "Mummy, please listen. Daddy told us at the end. He said something was moving." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes. Sarah hugged her daughter tightly and lowered her voice. "Mia, honey, Daddy was very sick, and that's why he said those things. The doctors said there was nothing there, remember?" Just then, a nurse hurried down the hall and spotted them. It was Brenda Jackson, a veteran nurse. "Hey, what are you two doing here?" Brenda asked, surprised. "This area is restricted." Sarah bowed her head in embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I'm on the cleaning staff, and my daughter just wandered off." "Ma'am, there's something in that boy's throat," Mia cried, running up to Brenda. "My daddy had the same thing, but nobody believed him." Brenda hesitated, looking at Mia's earnest face. In her 15 years as a nurse, she'd learned the hard way that ignoring a child's words could lead to regret. Kids often noticed details that adults missed. "Something moving?" Brenda knelt to meet Mia's gaze. "Yes, it wiggles inside his throat. Daddy kept saying it, but the doctors didn't believe him," Mia said, her eyes glistening with tears. Brenda thought for a moment, then looked at Sarah. "Your husband?" "He passed away 3 months ago," Sarah answered in a small voice. "Similar symptoms, but they never found the cause." Brenda's expression grew serious. In recent years, there had been a few cases of patients dying from unexplained respiratory failure. Most tests showed nothing wrong, but the patients' complaints were often the same, a feeling of something moving in their throat. At that moment, a louder alarm blared from the ICU. Leo's oxygen saturation had dropped to a critical level. Brenda had to run, but Mia's words echoed in her mind. At 2 a.m., the medical team was still standing vigil in Leo's room. Richard Thompson sat in a hallway chair, his head in his hands. Beside him, his wife Eleanor sat with a tear-stained face. "Richard, I never thought," Eleanor sobbed. "Our Leo, he's really—" "Don't say it," Richard snapped. "It's not over. We'll call better doctors. We'll spend more money." But even Richard was sinking into despair. He was one of the most influential businessmen in America. He was on a first-name basis with the president and had a network of powerful people around the globe. But right now, none of it mattered. Meanwhile, while her mother was cleaning another floor, Mia snuck back to the VIP wing. This time, she was more careful, timing her movements with the security guard's patrol route. It was just like her dad taught her on his construction sites. Always observe your surroundings and find the right time to move. Reaching the ICU door, Mia peeked inside. Leo was alone in the bed. The medical team had stepped out for a brief conference. Mia considered slipping through the door. The regret from the day she couldn't save her father washed over her again. If only she had spoken up more, screamed for help louder. Just then, Leo's eyes fluttered open. He saw the small girl standing at the door and whispered weakly, Who are you?" Mia cautiously approached the bed. "It's okay. I'm Mia." "It hurts so much," Leo moaned, pressing on his throat. "There's something in there." Mia's heart pounded. It was exactly what her father had said. "Does it feel like something's moving in your throat?" Mia asked gently. Leo's eyes widened. How did you know?" "My daddy had it too, but nobody believed him," Mia said sadly. Just then, footsteps echoed in the hallway. The medical team was returning. Mia quickly hid behind the door, but her mind was made up. This boy had the same thing her father did. The next morning, a new team of specialists arrived, including Dr. Ethan Cole, an expert in tropical medicine, and Dr. Nathan Reed, a leading parasitologist. But even they were stumped by Leo's symptoms. "Parasite screens, bacterial cultures, viral panels, every result is negative," Dr. Cole reported. Dr. Chen sighed heavily. "It's been 36 hours with no progress. If this continues..." That's when Nurse Brenda Jackson spoke up cautiously. "Dr. Chen, has the patient ever complained of a moving sensation in his throat?" "Why do you ask?" Dr. Chen asked, puzzled. "Yesterday, a little girl, she said her father died of similar symptoms and that there was something moving in his throat." The doctors exchanged glances. In medicine, objective test results were always prioritized over a patient's subjective feelings, but so far, every test had been useless. "Let's ask the patient directly," Dr. Cole suggested. When the team entered the ICU, Leo was barely conscious. "Leo, can you tell me what your throat feels like?" Dr. Chen asked softly. "It feels alive," Leo said with great effort. "Scratching, moving, like a little bug." A strange silence fell over the medical team. The patient's complaint, which they had dismissed until now, suddenly felt critically important. Out in the hallway, Mia saw what was happening and ran to her mother. "Mommy, the doctors are finally starting to believe," Mia said excitedly. But Sarah's face was grim. "Mia, we need to stay quiet. We can't get involved and cause trouble." "But Mommy, we can save him. I saw the same thing with Daddy," Mia begged. Just then, another alarm sounded from the ICU. This one was more serious. Leo had almost stopped breathing. "Code Blue! Get the ventilator. Prep for CPR." The hallway descended into chaos. Again, Richard and Eleanor collapsed in despair. In the midst of it all, Mia made a decision. She couldn't wait any longer. If the adults wouldn't believe her, she would have to act herself. Mia watched as the medical team focused on the emergency procedure. The security guard was on another floor, and all the nurses were inside the ICU. It was the perfect opportunity. With tiny steps, she approached the ICU door and hesitated for a second. If she got caught, her mother could be fired. But she couldn't just stand by and watch Leo die. "I'm sorry, Daddy. This time I'm going to help," Mia whispered to herself as she slipped through the door. The ICU was filled with the blaring alarms of medical equipment. Leo was unconscious, an oxygen mask covering his face as the medical team prepared for CPR. "1, 2, 3, Dr. Chen shouted, beginning chest compressions. Mia quietly circled to the other side of the bed. The months she had spent trailing her mother through the hospital, observing the staff, now paid off. She knew where the nurses kept the small pen lights and tongue depressors they used for throat exams, but Mia didn't act rashly. Just as her father had taught her, she first needed to assess the situation. While the team was absorbed in CPR, she carefully observed Leo's condition. His face was an even deeper shade of grey, and she could see a slight swelling around his neck. She had seen a similar symptom on her father. Carefully picking up the tools, Mia moved closer to Leo's mouth. Her hands trembled as she remembered her father's last day, but she took a deep breath and gently opened Leo's mouth. The moment the penlight's beam hit his throat, Mia gasped. Deep inside, something black was squirming. It looked like a small worm, alive and moving. It was about 2 inches long and seemed to have a slimy surface. "Daddy was right," Mia whispered, tears welling in her eyes. She tried to reach the black thing with the tongue depressor, but it was too deep. Then she spotted the long forceps the nurses used. With a shaky hand, Mia grabbed the forceps and took another deep breath. With extreme care, she inserted them deep into Leo's throat. She remembered her father's words. "Don't rush, be precise." The moment the forceps touched the black thing, it thrashed violently. Mia flinched but didn't give up. She slowly began to pull it out. "Come on, please," she whispered desperately. Finally, the long black thing emerged from Leo's mouth. It was truly a worm-like creature, wriggling in the grip of the forceps. It was bigger and more horrifying than she had imagined. In that instant, a miracle happened. Leo's breathing suddenly stabilized. His oxygen saturation shot up, and his heart rate returned to normal. Color slowly returned to his gray face. "Huh? What's happening?" Dr. Chen said, stunned by the sudden improvement in the vital signs. As the medical team stared in confusion, Mia carefully placed the black creature still writhing on the bedsheet. Just then, Nurse Brenda Jackson turned and saw her. "Hey! What are you doing in here?" Brenda cried out in shock. Every doctor's eyes snapped toward Mia. Dr. Chen's face turned red with anger when he saw the child holding forceps. "What the hell is going on here? Why is there a child in my ICU?" he yelled, striding toward her. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," Sarah cried, rushing in and pulling her daughter into an embrace. "Mia, she just call security." "Now," one of the doctors shouted. "This is a major breach." But then a weak voice came from the bed. "Wait," Leo said with effort. "That girl, she—" Everyone turned toward the bed. Leo was conscious. His face was already regaining its healthy color, and his breathing was normal. "Leo, son!" Richard cried, rushing to his side and grabbing his hand. "Dad, she helped me," Leo said, pointing at Mia. I think something came out of my throat. I can breathe now." Dr. Chen, bewildered, scanned the bed. That's when he saw the small black creature squirming on the sheet. What is that?" he asked, shining his penlight on it. "A parasite. It looks like a parasite," Dr. Cole, the tropical medicine expert, said, leaning in for a closer look. A stunned silence fell over the room. The cause that had eluded every test was right here. How did a 4-year-old? Brenda stared at Mia in disbelief. But some of the staff were still furious. Head nurse Carol Davis stepped forward. "That doesn't justify trespassing in a sterile environment. What if she caused an infection?" Sarah nearly fell to her knees. "I'm so sorry. We... Don't cry, Mummy," Mia said, hugging her mother. "The bug is the bad guy. Daddy had a bug like that too." Suddenly, another commotion erupted in the hallway. A nurse ran in, reporting breathlessly. "Dr. Chen, we have an emergency on the 3rd floor, a patient with the exact same symptoms." "What?" Dr. Chen stood up, shocked. "A man in his 50s, sudden respiratory distress and loss of consciousness. All his tests are coming back normal, but—" The doctors looked at each other. Another patient with the same symptoms couldn't be a coincidence. "Is that patient also complaining of a moving sensation in his throat?" Dr. Cole asked. "Yes, that too." In an instant, all eyes were back on Mia. The faces of the doctors who had just been scolding her were now a complex mix of emotions. Leo struggled to sit up. "She's right. There really was something alive in there. But after she took it out, I feel so much better." Richard Thompson walked over to Mia and knelt. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You saved my son." But Sarah was still terrified. Her daughter had clearly caused a major incident, and her job was on the line. Just then, another alarm blared from down the hall. The second patient's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Mia grabbed her mother's hand and said in a small voice, "Mummy, we have to help that man too. We can't let him end up like Daddy." Everything now rested on Mia's small shoulders. The third-floor general ward was thrown into chaos. Frank Russo, a 52-year-old man, was losing consciousness with the exact same symptoms as Leo. His oxygen levels were plummeting, and his face was turning grey. Dr. Chen rushed to the third floor carrying the small container with the parasite found in Leo. Dr. Cole and a few other doctors followed close behind, and to everyone's surprise, so did Mia and Sarah. "We need to see if this patient has the same thing," Dr. Cole said. Frank Russo was an ordinary middle-aged man who worked for a construction company. He had been complaining of a sore throat for 3 days before suddenly collapsing that morning. His wife, Maria, was waiting in the hallway, weeping. "He kept saying the strangest things," Maria told the doctors. "He said something was wiggling in his throat, that it felt alive, and that he could smell something sweet." Mia's heart sank when she heard that. It was exactly what her father had said, especially the part about the sweet smell. Her father had mentioned that repeatedly. "That man is just like Daddy," Mia whispered. The medical team examined Frank's throat, but with conventional methods they saw nothing. However, when they tried the deeper examination technique Mia had used, they found another black parasite lodged deep in his throat. "It's really there," Dr. Cole exclaimed. This parasite, however, was larger and more active than the one found in Leo. Removing it was more difficult, and the patient was in more distress. Once the parasite was removed with specialized medical tools, Frank's condition improved immediately. His breathing stabilized, and he regained consciousness. "What in the world is this?" Dr. Chen said, staring at the 2 containers holding the parasites. Mia spoke up cautiously. "I think my daddy had one of these too. He said the exact same things." Sarah's face went pale. "Mia, don't say that." "Mommy, remember Daddy's last day." Something small came out of his mouth, but the doctor said it was just phlegm. Dr. Cole approached Sarah. "Ma'am, is there any way we can get your husband's medical records? It could be important." Sarah hesitated. It was painful to revisit her husband's death, but seeing the pleading look in Mia's eyes, she made a decision. "I have his records at home. Should I get them?" An hour later, Sarah returned with her husband's medical files. As Dr. Cole reviewed them, he discovered something startling. His blood work is unusual. The eosinophil count is abnormally high, but the doctors at the time dismissed it as a simple allergic reaction. "What are eosinophils?" Sarah asked. "They're a key indicator of a parasitic infection, but this type of parasite is hard to detect with standard tests." At that moment, similar emergencies began breaking out on other floors of the hospital. A 7-year-old girl in the first-floor ER and a 6-year-old boy on the 5th-floor pediatric ward collapsed with the same symptoms. "This is no coincidence," Dr. Chen said firmly. "This is a systematic—" The hospital immediately went on lockdown. The simultaneous appearance of patients with identical symptoms was clearly an intentional act. The police were called, and an analysis of the security footage revealed a shocking truth. A suspicious individual had been roaming the hospital for the past week. "This is him," the head of security said, pointing to a screen. "He used a fake doctor's ID to move freely between wards." The man on the screen looked to be in his 40s. He wore a doctor's coat, but his movements were unnatural. He was caught on camera hiding small glass vials. "He appears to have approached all the affected patients," the security chief added. Richard Thompson's face hardened. "Someone intentionally did this to my son." Just then, Mia looked at the screen and cried out, "Hey, I've seen that man!" Everyone turned to look at her. "Where?" Sarah asked. "A few days ago when we went to Daddy's old hospital. That man was near Daddy's bed. I thought he was strange then." Sarah's face turned ashen. It was possible her husband's death hadn't been an accident either. The police immediately requested the security footage from the hospital where Mia's father had been admitted. A few hours later, they confirmed that the same man had been seen acting suspiciously there as well. His name is Alan Peterson, 45 years old, a police officer reported. He used to be a researcher at Biogen Innovations. Richard's face tightened. He worked for my company. Yes, until 5 years ago. He was one of your top researchers, but he was fired for ethical violations and leaking confidential data. The officer opened a file and continued. At the time of his dismissal, it was discovered he had embezzled a significant amount of research funds. You personally filed the charges against him. Richard finally remembered. Alan Peterson had been one of his most trusted researchers, particularly brilliant in the field of tropical diseases and parasitology. Why would he do something so monstrous? Richard muttered. Revenge, most likely, the officer replied. After he was fired, he tried to find work elsewhere, but no one would hire him with his record. He's also bankrupt. Meanwhile, Mia was busy helping to save the other patients in the hospital. With the help of the medical team, she successfully removed the parasites from the children on the 1st and 5th floors, but as she observed the parasites more closely, she noticed something strange. Doctor, these bugs are a little different, Mia told Dr. Cole. How so? The first one from the boy was small. The next one was a bit bigger, and this one is even bigger. It's like what? Like they're growing. Dr. Cole's face grew grave. If Mia's observation was correct, these parasites weren't just infecting their hosts. They were continuing to grow inside them. That means the longer they're in there, the more dangerous they become, Dr. Cole murmured. That night a manhunt for Alan Peterson began, but he had already vanished. Instead, the hospital made a more chilling discovery. A parasite incubator, believed to have been hidden by Peterson, was found in a basement storage room. Look at this, a forensics officer said, bringing up what they had found. Inside was a systematic parasite breeding facility, along with hospital blueprints, staff rosters, and the personal information of patients. The most shocking discovery was a target list. It contained the names of prominent American business leaders and their children, with Leo Thompson's name at the very top. A total of 20 children are in danger, the officer reported. Mia trembled as she looked at the list. So many more children were at risk, and Alan Peterson was still out there somewhere. After the target list was discovered, the entire city of New York went on high alert. The police immediately contacted the families of the 20 children on the list, uncovering a horrifying reality. 5 of the children are already hospitalized in other facilities, an officer reported urgently, all with unexplained respiratory failure. Richard Thompson immediately arranged for his medical team and Mia to be dispatched to each hospital. Time was running out. Without Mia's help, saving the other children would be difficult. Mia knows this better than anyone, Richard said to Sarah. We have to save the other kids. But Sarah hesitated. She wasn't sure it was right for her 4-year-old daughter to bear such a dangerous and heavy responsibility. Isn't it too risky? Sarah asked worriedly. I'm okay, Mia said bravely. We can't let other kids end up like Daddy. That afternoon, Mia, along with Richard, the medical team, and the police, traveled to 5 different hospitals across the city. At each one, Mia located the parasite just as she had with Leo. 7-year-old Emily Chen at the first hospital, 6-year-old Jacob Williams at the second, 9-year-old Sophia Rodriguez at the third, 8-year-old Noah Davis at the fourth, and 5-year-old Chloe Martinez at the fifth. All of them had the same parasite lodged in their throats. But as Mia observed the parasites, she discovered something even more terrifying. Doctors, this is weird, Mia told the medical team. The bugs are starting to look different. Different how? Dr. Cole asked. At first it was just a black worm, but now they're longer, and they have these strange little spikes. The parasites were indeed evolving over time, as if adapting to better survive within their hosts. This is not a natural parasite, Dr. Nathan Reed, the parasitologist, reported after a microscopic analysis. It appears to be genetically modified. Genetically modified? Richard asked, shocked. Yes. This structure is something you would never see in nature. It seems to have been intentionally created. Just then, the police received a call that they had found Alan Peterson's hideout. His makeshift lab was discovered in an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. "You need to see this," a forensics officer said, bringing in materials found at the lab. There were dozens of parasite specimens, along with emails exchanged with an overseas research institute. Even more shocking was a journal kept by Peterson. Phase 1. Trial, success, subject survived 7 days. Phase 2. Trial, increased growth rate, subject survived 14 days. Phase 3. Trial, enhanced host adaptability, subject survived 21 days. Peterson had been systematically evolving the parasite, and Mia's father had been one of his early test subjects. "My daddy was an experiment?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. The fact that her husband's death was not an accident, but the result of a malicious experiment was too much to bear. But the contents of the emails were even more frightening. "This one is from a lab in Africa," a forensics expert said, analyzing the emails. It seems Peterson provided information on key figures in the US in exchange for this modified parasite. "Are you saying a foreign power is involved?" Richard asked. "That's right, this isn't just personal revenge, it has the characteristics of economic terrorism." The emails also contained discussions about predicting stock market fluctuations of major US companies and corresponding investment strategies. Someone was trying to profit by creating chaos in the American economy. That night, after saving all the children, Mia returned home. But her heart was heavy. The truth about her father's death and the thought of other children nearly suffering the same fate kept her awake. "Daddy, you must have been so scared," Mia whispered, looking at her father's picture. Just then she heard a strange noise outside. Sarah cautiously peeked through the window and saw an unfamiliar man circling their apartment building. "Mia, be quiet," Sarah whispered to her daughter. But it was too late. It was Alan Peterson. He had lost everything, and now only one thing remained: revenge on the 4-year-old girl who had ruined his plans. Peterson pounded on the front door. No, he was kicking it. Come out and see what you've done," Peterson screamed. "You ruined everything." Sarah frantically called 911, but Peterson had already smashed a window and was climbing inside. "Mia, get behind me," Sarah cried, trying to shield her daughter, but Peterson approached them with a maniacal laugh. 5 years of planning, ruined by a 4-year-old kid. In his hand was a small vial containing a parasite. Mia was terrified but found her courage. "Why are you doing bad things? The other kids didn't do anything wrong." "Nothing wrong," Peterson sneered. "Think about what Richard Thompson did to me." "That doesn't mean you can hurt other people," Mia said bravely. Just then sirens wailed outside. The police had arrived, but Peterson just laughed as if he had expected it. "It's no use, even if you're here. This has already started," Peterson said ominously, "and I'm not working alone." Before anyone could process his words, Peterson threw the small vial to the floor. It wasn't a parasite that came out, but tear gas. In the confusion, Peterson escaped through another window, but his final words left everyone with a chilling sense of dread. This is only the beginning. After Alan Peterson's escape, a nationwide manhunt was launched, but his final words, "This is only the beginning," left everyone on edge. "Does this mean he's not alone?" Detective Evans asked as he escorted Mia's family to a safe house. "It's likely there's a larger organization involved," an agent from National Intelligence replied. "Analysis of the overseas emails suggests connections in at least 5 different countries." The next day, more shocking news broke. Patients with the same symptoms began appearing simultaneously in major hospitals in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Houston. 15 more children have been infected nationwide, an official from the Department of Health and Human Services reported urgently. Richard Thompson immediately arranged for a private jet to fly Mia and the medical team to each city. Time was critical. The more the parasite evolved, the harder it was to remove. Arriving at a hospital in Chicago, Mia immediately noticed something different. "Doctor, this bug is different again," Mia told the team. "It's hiding deeper." The parasites found in Chicago were indeed lodged much deeper in the throat than the previous ones, as if they had learned how to evade the human immune system. "This rapid evolution isn't natural," a professor at the University of Chicago Medical Center said. "It must be due to the artificial gene manipulation." In Los Angeles, the situation was even more dire. A 6-year-old girl, named Lily Kim, admitted to UCLA Medical Center, was in far worse condition than the other children. "This child has been infected for over a week," the medical team reported. "The parasite has grown too large." When Mia examined Lily, she saw that the parasite had grown so much it was obstructing not just her throat, but her entire airway. "This one. It's huge," Mia said, shocked. The removal process was extremely dangerous. One wrong move could damage the child's trachea. Mia focused with intense concentration, just like her father used to when he did precision work. "A little bit slowly," Mia whispered to herself as she manipulated the forceps. When the massive parasite was finally removed, it was nearly 4 inches long. The entire medical team was horrified. "I can't believe it can grow to this size," Dr. Cole said in disbelief. Meanwhile, back in New York, the investigation to find Peterson's accomplices was underway. The National Intelligence Analysis confirmed that this was not just personal revenge, but an act of international economic terrorism. "The goal is stock market manipulation," an analyst reported. "By targeting the children of major corporate leaders, they create panic and destabilize the market." Indeed, since the incidents became public, the stock prices of Biogen Innovations and several other corporations had plummeted, and someone, through carefully prepared short selling, was making a fortune. "We're tracking who's profiting from this," an official from the SEC said. That night, after saving all the children in the other cities, Mia returned to New York. She was physically and emotionally exhausted. It was too heavy a burden for a 4-year-old. "Mia, are you okay?" Sarah asked, looking at her daughter with concern. "I'm a little tired, but I'm glad the kids are okay," Mia replied in a small voice. Suddenly, Richard Thompson rushed in. "We've got him. Peterson has reappeared." "Where?" Detective Evans asked. "JFK Airport. He was trying to leave the country." But the more shocking news was that Peterson was not alone. He was with 3 foreign nationals, all carrying passports from an African nation. "The international organization is starting to reveal itself," the intelligence agent reported. During his interrogation, Peterson's confession horrified everyone. "This was just a trial run," Peterson said. "If it succeeded in the US, the plan was to expand to other countries." Other countries. Japan, Taiwan, Singapore. The target was all of Asia. It was a massive conspiracy to destabilize the economic systems of major Asian powers by endangering the children of their business leaders. "So, my daddy was," Mia asked, her voice trembling. "An early test subject," Peterson replied coldly. "He was the most suitable specimen under the circumstances." Mia was filled with rage. The fact that her father had been treated like a lab rat was unbearable. But a bigger problem remained. According to Peterson, there were still accomplices hiding in the country, and they possessed an even more evolved version of the parasite. "A second wave of attacks is planned," Peterson said with a sinister smile. "This time the targets aren't children but adults." "Adults? The president, the vice president, the chief justice, the really important people." A wave of tension filled the room. If the nation's key leaders were attacked, the entire country could be thrown into chaos. "When?" the intelligence agent demanded. "Soon, probably tomorrow or the day after," Peterson said, glancing at his watch. Just then, a text message arrived on Peterson's phone. When the police checked it, their faces went pale. It was a short message. "It has begun." At the exact same moment, an urgent call came from the White House. The president had suddenly begun showing symptoms of respiratory distress. Mia felt a chill run down her spine. The entire nation was now in danger. The urgent call from the White House instantly escalated the situation into a national crisis. The President of the United States had collapsed with sudden respiratory failure. The symptoms were identical to what they had seen before. "To the White House now," a Secret Service agent ordered Mia and the medical team, but more shocking reports flooded in. The Vice President, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and the Speaker of the House had all been rushed to emergency rooms with the same symptoms. "This is a coordinated attack on our government," the Director of National Intelligence exclaimed in an emergency briefing. As Mia flew to Washington, D.C. in a helicopter, she could hardly believe it. The weight of knowing she, a 4-year-old, had to save the most important person in the country was immense. "Are you scared, Mia?" Sarah asked, squeezing her daughter's hand. "A little, but I have to do it. There's no one else who can," Mia replied bravely. When they arrived, the White House was in a state of utter chaos. Everyone from the Chief of Staff to the Cabinet Secretaries was in a panic. "The President," the head of the Secret Service said, his voice trembling. In the residence, the President lay unconscious. His face was grey, his breathing dangerously unstable. The White House physician and an emergency team from Walter Reed Medical Center surrounded him, but they were all helpless. "All his tests are normal," the physician reported, "but his condition is deteriorating by the minute." Mia cautiously approached the President. Just like the other patients, she could see a faint movement under the skin of his neck. "It's here too," she said with conviction. But the parasite in the President was the most evolved form she had ever seen. It was larger and positioned deeper than any before. Removing it looked incredibly difficult. "This one, it's too deep," Mia said worriedly. Just then, more desperate news came from the Situation Room. "The Vice President is unconscious. The Chief Justice is in critical condition. The Speaker's condition is worsening rapidly." The leaders of all 3 branches of the U.S. government were in peril simultaneously. If anything happened to them, the entire nation could be paralyzed. "How could this happen all at once?" the Chief of Staff stammered. Intelligence analysis revealed that accomplices had launched coordinated attacks at different locations. The parasite infections had occurred simultaneously at the White House, the Capitol building, and the Supreme Court. "There are at least 4 accomplices," an agent reported. All of them had credentials that gave them access to these federal buildings. "You mean there are inside collaborators?" the head of the Secret Service asked. "It appears so." Mia attempted to remove the parasite from the President, but it was too difficult. It was lodged so deep that conventional methods couldn't reach it. "What do I do?" Mia wondered, stumped. Just then, Leo Thompson, who had come with his father, stepped forward. "Mia, let me help. I've felt that thing inside me, so maybe I can sense something." With Leo's help, Mia was able to pinpoint the exact location. Then, with extreme care, she began the removal process. "A little more. Just a little more," she whispered, concentrating. Finally, the massive parasite was extracted. It was nearly 5 inches long, and its surface was covered in strange spikes. The President's breathing immediately stabilized, and he regained consciousness. His first words were of gratitude to Mia. "Thank you, little hero," the President said weakly. But the relief was short-lived. The emergencies were still unfolding elsewhere. Mia had to move immediately. The Vice President was at a D.C. hospital, the Chief Justice at another, and the Speaker at a third. Mia was flown by helicopter from one location to the next, saving them one by one. With each patient, the parasites were more evolved. In the case of the Speaker of the House, there were 2 of them. "That's strange. Why are there 2? Mia wondered. "This must be the final stage of their experiment," Dr. Cole analyzed. "They're using multiple parasites for a more potent effect." After saving all the nation's leaders, Mia was completely exhausted. The intense focus of saving lives all day had pushed her to her physical and mental limits. "Mia, you can rest now," Sarah said, holding her daughter. But just then, National Intelligence delivered one last shocking piece of news. "The accomplices are about to execute their final plan," an agent reported urgently. "Their final plan? To eliminate Mia. They want to get rid of the child who foiled their entire operation." A chill ran through the room. Mia, the hero who had saved so many, was now in the most danger. "Get her to safety now," the President commanded, But the accomplices were already on the move. Their target was singular: eliminate the 4-year-old girl who had ruined everything. Mia realized that she was now the cause of a new danger, but she wasn't afraid. Just as she had done all along, she would face it with courage. After Mia saved the nation's leaders, the White House went into its highest state of security. But the accomplices' final plan was already in motion. "They're targeting Mia," a national security analyst reported urgently. "Intercepted communications indicate an attack is planned for tonight." The president ordered Mia and her family to be moved to the most secure bunker within the White House, but even there Mia felt uneasy. "Have you figured out who the accomplices are?" Mia asked. "Not yet, specifically." An agent trailed off. Suddenly, the lights inside the White House flickered and died. The emergency power kicked in, but it was a clear sign. An accomplice was inside. "We have an intruder," the head of the Secret Service yelled into his radio. Hurried footsteps echoed down the hall, approaching the bunker. "Mia, stay behind me," Sarah said, shielding her daughter. But when the bunker door opened, the person who appeared was completely unexpected. It was Dr. Mark Hamilton, the White House physician. "It's safe. I've come to get you," Dr. Hamilton said. Mia sensed something was wrong. Dr. Hamilton's voice was trembling, and his hands were shaking. "Doctor, are you okay?" Mia asked. "I'm fine. Just fine," he replied awkwardly. That's when Mia noticed a small syringe peeking out of his pocket. "Doctor," Mia said, cautiously backing away. Dr. Hamilton's face contorted in anguish. I'm so sorry, but I have no choice." "No choice?" Sarah asked, holding her daughter tighter. "My family. They have my family," Dr. Hamilton said, his voice breaking. "To get my wife and daughter back, I have to—" Mia finally understood. Dr. Hamilton was being blackmailed, just like Peterson had been manipulated. "Doctor, are bad people threatening you?" Mia asked. He nodded. "For 3 months now. My daughter is about your age. Please try to understand." Just then, gunshots erupted outside the bunker. A firefight had broken out between Secret Service agents and the intruders. "There's no time," Dr. Hamilton cried, pulling out the syringe and moving toward her, but Mia didn't run. Instead, she walked toward him. "Doctor, you don't have to listen to the bad people. We can help you." "What?" Dr. Hamilton was stunned. "I saved the president. I can save your family too," Mia said with unwavering confidence. At that moment, the bunker door burst open again. This time, it was the Secret Service. "Dr. Hamilton, what are you doing?" an agent shouted. Dr. Hamilton dropped the syringe and fell to his knees. I'm so sorry." "Doctor, where is your family?" Mia asked him. "In Georgetown, a building in Georgetown," he sobbed. National Intelligence immediately launched a rescue operation based on his information, and to their astonishment, they found not only Dr. Hamilton's family, but other victims as well. A total of 8 families were being held hostage, an agent reported. All of them are families of government employees. The accomplices had been blackmailing insiders to carry out their plans. Meanwhile, 3 of the intruders were captured during the firefight at the White House. Their testimony revealed an even more shocking truth. "This was never just about the United States," one of the captured men said. "It was an experiment targeting all of Asia." An experiment. To measure the effectiveness of economic terrorism. If it worked here, the plan was to expand to Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. An intelligence analyst provided more detail. The entity behind this is an international speculative investment fund. They want to destabilize the Asian economy for massive financial gain. Indeed, the US stock market had been thrown into turmoil during the crisis, and someone had used that chaos to profit by billions of dollars. "We were just tools," another accomplice said. "The real masterminds are a much bigger organization." Mia was furious as she listened. The fact that her father's death and everything that followed was just part of an experiment for profit was unbearable. "Why do you do such bad things?" Mia asked one of the men. "Kid, the world is more complicated than you think," he replied with a bitter smile. "Being complicated doesn't mean you get to hurt people," Mia shot back. The man was silent for a moment. Faced with the pure logic of a 4-year-old, He seemed to realize the true depravity of his actions. That night, all the accomplices were captured and the hostages were rescued, but Mia still felt uneasy. "Is it really over?" she whispered, looking at her father's picture. Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. "It's over now, Mia. You saved so many people." But one important issue remained: how to help all the people who had been hurt by this, especially those who, like Mia, had lost family members. Mia's real journey was just beginning. After all the accomplices were arrested, the full truth began to emerge. A 3-week joint investigation by U.S. intelligence and international agencies revealed a conspiracy far larger than anyone had imagined. "Here is the final analysis," the Director of National Intelligence reported to the President in the Situation Room. "The true mastermind was a biotech lab based in Africa, but that lab is owned by a massive European investment fund, Atlantic Capital." "An investment fund? Why?" the President asked. "To curb Asia's economic growth. For the past 5 years, they have been systematically planning economic terror attacks across the continent. The investigation revealed that the United States was their first major testing ground. Had it succeeded, the plan was to expand to Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. If we hadn't stopped them, all of Asia could have fallen into economic chaos," Richard Thompson said, a chill running down his spine. Meanwhile, Mia learned the detailed circumstances of her father David's death. The truth was far more complex and heartbreaking than she had thought. "Your father wasn't just a random victim," Detective Evans explained gently to Mia and Sarah. "He was actually an accidental witness." "A witness?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Yes. While working at the construction site, Mr. Miller stumbled upon Alan Peterson's makeshift lab where he was breeding the parasites. The lab was hidden in the basement of the construction site." Mia's heart ached. Her father truly was an innocent victim. "What did Daddy see?" she asked in a small voice. "He saw the systematic breeding and modification of the parasites. He also witnessed the test subjects, lab rats, dying. David Miller had tried to call the police immediately, but Peterson found him first and decided to eliminate the witness. In his final moments, your father was trying to leave you clues," Detective Evans continued. "The way he specifically described his symptoms, his repeated mention of a sweet smell, it was all so that you might recognize it if you ever encountered a similar situation." Sarah wept. The knowledge that her husband had been thinking of their daughter until the very end was devastating. "My daddy," Mia whispered, clutching her father's photograph. Just then, Richard Thompson made a major announcement. "We will create a foundation in David Miller's honor," he said with heartfelt sincerity. "We will establish the David Miller Medical Safety Foundation to create a healthcare system that truly listens to the patient's voice." "But the pharmaceutical industry will push back," Richard's assistant worried. "I don't care," Richard said firmly. "We have to be the ones to change. This incident taught me that no matter how advanced our technology is, it's useless if we don't listen to the patient." As predicted, when the plan for the foundation was announced, there was fierce opposition from the pharmaceutical lobby and major hospital corporations. This undermines the existing medical system. Promoting unscientific diagnostic methods is dangerous. Generalizing from a 4-year-old's lucky success is irresponsible. The media was filled with debate. Some medical experts criticized Mia's methods as lacking a scientific basis. "We cannot make a diagnosis by a child who isn't even a medical professional a standard of care. We must not let emotion compromise the fundamental principles of medicine." These criticisms deeply hurt Mia. She had trouble sleeping at night and began to doubt whether she had truly done the right thing. "Mommy, did I do something wrong?" Mia asked one night, her voice choked with tears. "What if I'm actually causing harm to people?" "No, Mia," Sarah said, hugging her daughter tightly. "You saved so many people. That is a fact." Just then, Leo Thompson came to visit. Now a middle schooler, he had been Mia's steadfast supporter. "Mia, don't let what those people say get to you," Leo said. "It's a fact that you saved me, and all the other kids too. But the grown-ups say I was wrong." "Grown-ups aren't always right," Leo said confidently. We know what we went through better than anyone, and what really matters are the results. Think about how many people you saved. A few days later, an unexpected wave of support emerged. Medical professionals from around the world began issuing statements in support of Mia. Harvard Medical School's pediatric department has selected Mia's case as an official research project, Dr. Chen told them excitedly. Johns Hopkins Hospital wants to invite Mia to help them improve their patient-centered care. The Royal College of Physicians in the UK is even creating an award in Mia's name. The global medical community was taking notice. For many advanced nations, Mia's story became a catalyst for re-emphasizing the importance of patient-centered care. A Listen to the Patient campaign has launched simultaneously in 50 countries, an official from the Department of Health reported. The WHO has also selected Mia's case as a model to be shared with all member nations. The atmosphere in the US began to shift dramatically. Many of the medical professionals who had initially criticized Mia changed their stance. "I was wrong," head nurse Carol Davis said in a public apology. "We need to listen more closely to our patients. Mia was right." "This is a lesson in humility for all of us," a medical school professor said. "To think we had so much to learn from a 4-year-old." The president held a special press conference at the White House. "Mia Miller is a young hero our nation should be proud of," the president said, his voice filled with emotion. "Thanks to her, not only were many lives saved, but we have been given an opportunity to build a better healthcare system. The government will fully support the David Miller Medical Safety Foundation, and we will make patient-centered care a national policy." 3 months later, the foundation officially launched. Its first program was a Listening to the Patient's Voice training course for medical professionals nationwide. Mia participated as a special guest lecturer. "Hi, my name is Mia," she said, addressing doctors and nurses across the country via video conference. "I want to talk about how to listen to people who are sick." Hundreds of medical professionals listened intently to the 5-year-old. Sometimes, sick people say strange things, but hidden in those words can be a really important clue, just like with my daddy. That night, Mia sat in front of her father's picture. "Daddy, a lot more people are going to listen to sick people now," she told the photograph. "The clues you left for me are changing the world." Sarah watched her daughter with pride. Her husband's sacrifice had not been in vain, and her daughter was transforming that pain into hope for the world. "Daddy, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up," Mia said with determination. "The kind of doctor who listens best to people who are hurting." 6 months later, the David Miller Medical Safety Foundation officially opened its doors. Located in a modern building in downtown Manhattan, a plaque near the entrance read, "We listen to the patient's voice." The foundation's first project was the Patient-Centered Care Training Program. While medical and nursing schools across the country showed interest, there was still a vocal opposition. Will this really be effective? The dean of a prestigious medical school expressed his doubts. "There's a lack of clinical data." "But we have real-world results, don't we?" Dr. Chen countered. Mia saved over 20 children herself. Mia became an honorary advisor to the foundation. Though only 5 years old, she attended meetings with medical professionals to share her experiences. "Mia, you have a video conference today," Sarah told her daughter. "You'll be talking with the doctors from a hospital in Chicago." Mia was now meeting with medical teams from across the country via video 3 times a week. It was awkward at first, but she gradually grew more confident. "Hi, I'm Mia," she said brightly into the camera. "Today I want to talk about finding important clues in what patients say." The medical staff from the Chicago hospital listened intently. It was the voice of a 5-year-old, but it held the wisdom born from saving lives. "When patients say, 'Something feels wrong,' don't ignore them," Mia explained earnestly. "My daddy said that too." If the doctors had listened more closely, then... The medical professionals deeply resonated with her words. Younger doctors, in particular, began to place more importance on patients' subjective symptoms. But change wasn't easy. Some hospitals clung to traditional methods, and some doctors continued to criticize Mia's approach as unscientific. "Relying solely on experience is dangerous," the director of a university hospital stated publicly. Medicine must be based on science. These criticisms still hurt Mia. At night, when she was alone, she would sometimes wonder if she was truly doing the right thing. "Mommy, I feel bad that the doctors are fighting because of me," Mia told Sarah one evening. "No, Mia," Sarah said, hugging her. "Change is never easy, but you have to keep going because it's the right thing to do." Just then, Leo Thompson came to visit. Now in 8th grade, he was Mia's staunchest supporter. "Mia, want to see the letters I've been getting?" Leo asked, pulling out a thick envelope. "Letters?" "They're from the kids you saved and their families," he said, reading them one by one. "Our son is alive because of Mia. Thank you so much. Emily Chen's mother. We would have lost our daughter without Mia. We will never forget what you did. Sofia Rodriguez's father." There were dozens of letters, not just from the children Mia had saved, but also from the families of patients who received early diagnoses thanks to the Foundation's training program. "See, so many people are happy because of you," Leo told her. "Don't pay any attention to the critics." 3 months later, the Foundation released its first performance report. The results were astounding. Hospitals that implemented the Listen to the Patient's Voice training saw a 35% increase in the early diagnosis of rare diseases, the Foundation's research director announced. In pediatrics, the improvement was over 50%. After these results were published, even the opposing doctors began to change their tune. "The effect is greater than I anticipated," the once critical hospital director admitted. "This warrants more systematic research." International interest grew as well. Harvard Medical School requested to conduct a formal study on Mia's case. "We want to scientifically analyze the observational techniques Mia uses," a Harvard pediatrics professor said via video conference, "and we want to study whether this method can be applied in other countries." Mia received more and more attention, but she was still a normal 5-year-old. She went to kindergarten, played with friends, and sometimes threw tantrums. "Mia, you have a video conference with a hospital in Tokyo tomorrow," Sarah reminded her of her schedule. I'm tired," Mia whined. "I want to play with my friends." "Just a little longer, sweetie. We have to help the sick kids," Sarah coaxed. That evening, Mia sat in front of her father's picture and told him about her day. "Daddy, I talked to a lot of doctors again today," she told the photo. "I'm sharing the things you taught me with other people. But Daddy, sometimes I get scared. What if I make a mistake?" Sarah's heart ached for her daughter. She worried that Mia was carrying too much responsibility at such a young age. "Mia, you can tell me any time if it's too much," Sarah told her. "You can't forget that you're still a little girl." Meanwhile, Richard Thompson was fully dedicated to the Foundation. He now spent more time on its work than on running his pharmaceutical company. "Sir, the company's shareholders are complaining," his assistant reported. "They say you're focusing too much on the Foundation." "I don't care," Richard said firmly. "This is more important. It's also how I can repay Mia for saving my son." But Richard had his own struggles. Growing the Foundation required more funding and staff, and the resistance from opposing factions was strong. As 6 months passed, Mia continued to grow. She got taller, and her speech became more precise. But most importantly, she gained a lot of confidence. "I'm going to be a really good doctor when I grow up," Mia told her kindergarten teacher, "the kind who listens best to people who are sick." Then one day, unexpected news arrived. A book about Mia's story was going to be published internationally. "A publisher in the US wants to turn Mia's story into a book," a Foundation staff member announced. "A book?" Mia asked, amazed. "Yes, and they've offered to donate a portion of the proceeds to the Foundation." Mia was excited that her story would become a book, but she also felt the pressure. "Will my story really help other people?" she asked worriedly. "Of course it will," Leo answered with conviction. "Your story is special. It's a story the whole world needs to hear." But Mia still had much she wanted to accomplish. She wanted to train more doctors and ensure that no one else would become a victim like her father. "There's still a long way to go," Mia said with determination. Mia's real journey was just beginning. A year later, Mia turned 6 and started elementary school. But her daily life was completely different from that of other children. After school, she had video conferences with medical professionals from around the world, and on weekends, she visited hospitals to participate in training sessions. "Mia, today you're meeting with doctors from the United States," Sarah told her daughter. "They came all the way from Harvard Medical School to see you." "Really?" Mia's eyes lit up. "To see me?" A team of 5 pediatricians from Harvard had indeed traveled to New York to learn Mia's methods firsthand. They were scientifically analyzing her diagnostic techniques to see how they could be implemented in the American healthcare system. "Hello, Mia," said Dr. Rebecca Johnson, the head of pediatrics at Harvard Medical School. "We've heard so much about you." "Hello," Mia replied in English. She had been studying the language diligently for the past year. Dr. Johnson's team wanted to observe how Mia actually identified the parasites. Coincidentally, a patient with similar symptoms had just been admitted to New York Presbyterian. This time, it's a 9-year-old boy who has been showing signs of respiratory distress for 3 days, Dr. Chen explained. All his tests have come back normal. With the Harvard team watching, Mia examined the patient. By now, her diagnostic process was much more systematic and precise. "It's here," Mia said, pointing deep into the boy's throat. "But this one is a little strange." "What's strange about it?" Dr. Johnson asked with keen interest. "There are 2 of them, and they're attached to each other," Mia said, surprised. The parasite was indeed the most evolved form they had ever encountered. 2 organisms had fused together, making removal extremely difficult. "This is," Dr. Johnson said in amazement after examining it under a microscope. "This is an incredible discovery. A parasite of this nature has never been documented in medical literature." Mia's diagnostic ability had evolved beyond finding known parasites to discovering entirely new species. The Harvard team's research concluded that Mia's method had a clear scientific basis. Mia is able to detect micro-changes that are imperceptible to standard medical equipment, Dr. Johnson announced. "It's a unique diagnostic method that combines touch, sight, and intuition. We would like to officially name it the Mia method." It was the moment a diagnostic method named after Mia was officially recognized. 3 months later, even more alarming news arrived. Similar parasite incidents began to occur in Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. "What we feared is happening," an intelligence analyst reported. "The organization that failed in the US is now attempting to expand to other countries." "We need Mia's help," came an urgent request from a university hospital in Tokyo. Beijing has sent an SOS as well. For the first time, Mia traveled abroad for work. At the age of 6, she had become an international medical consultant. In Tokyo, Mia saved 3 Japanese children. In Beijing, she saved 5, and in Singapore, 2. The medical teams in each country were in awe of her abilities. "She is a truly remarkable child," a professor of pediatrics in Tokyo said. "We want to learn this method as well." But as her international travel increased, Mia faced new stresses, language barriers, different cultures, and above all, the loneliness of being away from home. "Mommy, I want to go home," Mia said tearfully during a trip to Beijing. "Just a little longer, sweetie," Sarah said, comforting her. "The kids in other countries need you too." But Sarah was also worried. She feared her daughter was taking on too much responsibility too soon and wondered if she would be able to have a normal childhood. It was then that Richard Thompson made a crucial proposal. "Mia can't do this alone," he said at a foundation board meeting. "We need to teach her method to others and build a team." "A team?" "Yes, a Mia diagnostic team. We'll have Mia select and intensively train medical professionals to be dispatched around the world." It was a revolutionary idea. Mia couldn't travel the globe by herself, but a team she trained could. Mia was thrilled with the idea. "Really? I can teach the doctors?" "Of course," Richard said with a smile. "It's what you do best." An intensive 6-month training program was launched. 50 medical armwire professionals, selected from around the world, came to New York to be trained directly by Mia. "The most important thing is your heart," Mia told the trainees. "The heart that truly wants to listen to what the patient is saying. Caring for the patient is more important than any technique." The trainees listened intently to the 6-year-old, and remarkably, most of them were able to learn her method to some degree. They're not quite at Mia's level, but their diagnostic accuracy has improved dramatically, the training coordinator reported. After the program, they returned to their home countries and began to spread the Mia method. The results were astonishing. Within 6 months, the number of rare parasite infections worldwide dropped by over 90%. The economic terrorists' plans were almost completely neutralized. "We did it!" Leo said excitedly to Mia. "Your method saved the world." But Mia was more cautious. "It might not be over yet," she said worriedly. "The bad people could just think of another way." Mia's concern was justified. The terrorist organization was already preparing a new strategy. "It seems they plan to use a virus this time, not a parasite," National Intelligence announced. "Does that mean Mia's method won't work?" Richard asked, concerned. "A virus requires a completely different approach." Mia found herself facing a new challenge. Now, she had to contend not just with parasites, but with viruses as well. "It's okay," Mia said with composure. "Just like my daddy taught me, I'll start by observing the small things one by one." But this time she wasn't alone. She had 50 colleagues around the world and thousands of medical professionals who supported her method. "We're going to win this time too," Mia said confidently. At 7 years old, Mia was no longer fighting alone. The whole world was with her. 2 more years passed and Mia was now 9. A third grader, she was far more mature than her peers, but had never lost her bright, pure heart. To combat the new viral threat, Mia and her team had developed an even more systematic approach. "Mia, today is a very important day," Sarah told her daughter. "It's the day we treat the last virus patient." Over the past year, the terrorist organization had attempted 5 new viral attacks, but each one was detected and thwarted early by Mia and the global Mia team. Her observational method had been further developed to apply to viruses. "Viruses are different from parasites," Mia explained in a global video lecture to medical professionals. "But by carefully observing minute changes in the patient, we can detect them early." The last virus patient was in a hospital in Paris, France. Mia guided the local medical team via video conference. "Watch the patient's eye movements closely," Mia instructed, "and don't miss the subtle changes in their breathing patterns." Following Mia's guidance, the French doctors successfully identified and treated the virus. It was the economic terrorists' final attack. "It's finally over," National Intelligence officially announced. Through a joint international investigation, all members of the terrorist organization have been arrested, and their virus manufacturing facilities have been destroyed. The world cheered. The medical revolution started by Mia had finally eliminated the threat of economic terrorism. But the most meaningful moment came a few days later. A special plaque unveiling ceremony was held at New York Presbyterian, the very hospital where Mia had first saved Leo. "Today is a truly special day," the hospital administrator said at the ceremony. "The small miracle that began here has changed the world." The unveiled plaque read, "Here, a child taught us the power of listening." Mia looked at the plaque with tears in her eyes. A wave of longing for her father washed over her as she remembered the long journey she had taken. All the children Mia had saved and their families attended the ceremony. Leo was now in high school, and the other children were all growing up healthy and strong. "I'm standing here today because of Mia," said Chloe Martinez, who was now 12. "I don't know what would have happened to our family without her," Emily Chen's mother said, weeping. But the most moving moment came with Richard Thompson's announcement. The David Miller Medical Safety Foundation will be expanded today into the David Mia Miller Global Health Foundation, he announced. "We will establish branches in 100 countries to permanently disseminate the Mia method. And we will establish the annual Mia Award to honor the medical professional who best listens to the patient's voice." A thunderous applause erupted. An award in Mia's name meant her method would be carried on forever. That afternoon, Mia and her mother visited her father's grave. The headstone was now surrounded by flowers and thank-you notes from all over the world. "We did it, Daddy," Mia said at the gravesite. The clues you left for me saved the world. And Daddy, now all the hospitals listen to their patients. They cherish every word, no matter how young the person is or how strange it sounds." Sarah looked at her daughter with pride. At 9 years old, Mia seemed so mature, but she was still a pure-hearted child who missed her father. 3 months later, even more incredible news arrived. The World Health Organization, WHO, decided to include Mia's method in its official medical guidelines. The patient voice protocol will be included in the official WHO clinical practice guidelines, the Director General announced. This will become a mandatory standard for all medical institutions worldwide. With this, the medical revolution Mia started was fully institutionalized. Listening to the patient's voice became a fundamental principle in every hospital around the globe. A year later, Mia celebrated her 10th birthday. Her party was attended by medical professionals and the families of the children she had saved from all over the world. "You're 10 now, Mia. You're practically a grown-up," Leo joked. "I'm still a kid," Mia laughed. "But I really want to be a doctor now." "What kind of doctor?" Sarah asked. "A doctor who heals patients' hearts too. When you're sick, it's not just your body that hurts. Your heart hurts too." That night, Mia wrote in her diary, "I turned 10 today. I was so sad when I first lost Daddy, but now I think he would be proud. His sacrifice wasn't for nothing and the whole world has changed. I'm going to keep studying and become a really good doctor, and I will listen to the voices of sick people for my entire life." 5 more years passed. Mia was now 15 and a sophomore, in high school. Her dream was still to become a doctor, and she was at the top of her class. "Mia, you've received an early admission offer from Columbia's medical school," Sarah told her daughter. "Really? But I haven't even graduated from high school yet. They said it's a special case. Your contributions to the medical field are already immeasurable." But Mia turned down the offer. "I want to take my time," she said. "I want to graduate from high school normally with my friends." She still wanted to remain a humble, ordinary kid. One day Mia revisited New York. Presbyterian for the first time in years, a Mia Diagnostic Center had been established there, with her picture and a display of her achievements. "Wow, so much has happened," Mia said, feeling a wave of nostalgia as she looked at photos of her younger self. At the end of the exhibit was a picture of her father, David Miller. The caption below it read, "David Miller, a father who taught his daughter the power of listening." Mia stood in front of the photo for a long time. "Daddy, I'm really growing up now," she said to the picture. "But I'll never forget what you taught me." That evening, Mia looked out her window at the city lights. Behind each light was a person, and some of them were surely sick. But things were different now. In every hospital around the world, doctors were listening to their patients. To listen. That was the most precious legacy Mia gave to the world. Mia's story wasn't over. She was still growing, and one day she would become a truly great doctor. And even then, she would still be the doctor who listened best to the small voices of her patients. The legacy her father, David Miller, left behind continued on forever through his daughter and through countless medical professionals around the world. Please listen. Even if it's a small voice, even if it sounds strange, please listen. This was now the first principle for doctors everywhere, and so the story of Mia and her father became an eternal legacy, and it continues on.